Hi, everyone, and welcome to a special edition of Golden's Guide. I'm Deborah Hawkins, your host, and we're here in Bronx Studios. And today, the tables are getting turned a little bit, although I'm still sitting in the same spot. And my good friend, Joyce McAbee, is going to be interviewing me about coaching. I've just decided recently to go back into it. I had a thriving practice for many years, and I'm ready to get back into it. I've learned a lot this year, as you all very well know, and it's time for me to get back and support women on a deeper level. I love doing what I'm doing here. I'll continue to do this, but I would like to support people more in one-on-one and group sessions. So with that, welcome, Joyce.
Thank you.
I just introduced myself.
You did. I'm looking forward to talking to you about this.
Great.
I really am.
I know. Well, we've had, and I do have to, thank you. You were very encouraging.
You're sweet.
About me revisiting coaching. I guess I got my certification way back in the early 2000.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's and I don't even think I mentioned, but I'm doing some other training now too. So
no, you didn't tell me that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm ready. I've got loads of questions for you.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Okay.
These are going to be easy, I promise.
Okay.
But you are clearly, when I talk with you about coaching, you are clearly passionate about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to know what got you into it to start with back in the early 2000s. So tell me a little bit about that.
Well, in a previous life, I was a banker and I was in management. Mm-hmm. And what I loved about banking was not the numbers, but the people.
Mm-hmm.
So I discovered after about 17 years in banking that my true love was helping people find their strengths and moving them up the ladder or to another position or supporting them in that way. It was like I could really see the individual. And my, my interests were more in the people than the numbers. And I did a lot of traveling and mergers, and helping. This was a big job back then, when we would go in on a weekend and we would change Bank A to Bank B. And, the employees are scared and they've been, everything's different. And so I didn't realize what I was doing then, but I was coaching. Mm-hmm. I was coaching all weekend. I was helping them get excited, encouraged, and confident to open on Monday morning. So basically what happened was my father passed away.
Okay.
And it was at the height of my career. Mm-hmm. And I had this realization that there was no one to call. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I also realized that I'd probably stayed a little bit longer in banking because my dad thought that was a great job.
Good career.
For me.
Yes.
Good, stable job.
Yes, all that important stuff.
So when he passed and I had this big realization, I remember leaving the bank and really not having anything to go to, or I just knew that it was time for me to make a move.
Okay. Okay.
It was one of those mini midlife crises. My mother had passed really early.
I love those mini midlife crises.
Well,
mini and mini.
Or mini. Yeah.
Either one.
Yeah, I have them all. So I remember thinking, gosh, what in the world could I do that would encompass all those things that I love? And coaching wasn't even on the radar back then. I mean, there was no it wasn't like, I'll just go into coaching.
Right.
I just remember like praying and thinking and, like what in the world can I do to use these skills and what I really, supporting people. Yeah. What can I use that? I thought about going back to school and becoming a therapist. Then that didn't work. That wasn't really what I wanted. And as fate would have it, I went to Austin to visit a girlfriend.
Okay.
while I was there, we went to lunch, and she invited one of her girlfriends who happened to be a staff coach.
Don't you love girlfriends?
Yes. And she was a staff coach
Okay.
with Debbie Ford,
Okay.
who is an amazing coach, and she was probably one of the first
Okay.
life coaches, lifestyle coaches. She was on Oprah several times, and she wrote some great books, and pretty much kind of began to introduce coaching to the world.
Right.
And she started off with Deepak Chopra and working with celebrities, and then ended up training. She created a big training facility. When I met her and she told me what she did, it was like
light bulb.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
And so she said, well, we're doing a workshop in a couple months. Why don't you come out to San Diego and just see what you think? Okay. So I went for a 4-day workshop, and it was like, oh, I'm doing this. That was like in July, and I signed up to go through a 3.5-year certification.
So you're qualified.
I'm qualified. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
A 3.5-year certification. That January.
Okay, that's wild. That's one of the challenges that I would think about when if I were going to go and seek a coach. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's every other online thing that you read says I'm a coach. I'm a coach.
Even the word has kind of like I wish there was something else, because it has gotten a bad rap, because many people have and many organizations, I'm sorry to say, have taken people's money and have set up shop and done a weekend workshop.
Yep.
A weekend.
And said, now I'm a coach.
And then gave someone a piece of paper, and mine was so extensive that once we finished the program, then we went into a practicum where we were monitored.
Oh, that's very interesting and very unusual.
Yeah, we were monitored with our clients, and we worked clients for free.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
What would you tell somebody who is looking online? So they're unhappy. They can't figure out why they're unhappy, or they're thinking this only ever happens to me. It never happens to anybody else. And the first thing they do is sit down in front of the computer and they look up something online. What's the value in going to a living, breathing coach that takes time to drive to, time to get to, sit down with, versus getting information online? What's the value?
I think it's like anything else. It's almost like going to a doctor. You really have to do your research and ask for referrals and ask, who knows their work, and ask to talk to people who've done their work. I think that's really important, because but it is one of those things where you have to do your own homework. Yeah,
you have to do your own homework. Well, is there something that you specialize in particular?
I actually do. And this is, a lot of people know, it's become much more known now. My certification is specialized in shadow work, which it's...
Tell me a little bit about that.
I will.
Okay.
It's a lot more known now.
Okay.
Carl Jung, who was a famous psychologist and scientist. I mean, he really was the one who brought that work to being. And shadow work is basically based around the parts of ourselves that we don't like. That I don't really want you to see.
Do you have a line of people out here waiting to see you?
Yeah. And
that's everybody, isn't it?
I wanted to certify in that, and that interests me the most, because I think for all of us, when we're stuck, when we're in transition, when we're unable to make a decision, when we're basically just having issues, there's generally a shadow part of us that we don't want to acknowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And the truth of the matter is, it's like my teacher, Debbie Ford, used to say, she's passed now, there's gold in them there shadows.
Yes, I can imagine.
Because our shadows are actually, for a lot of us, they're ways that if something happened to us in childhood or whatever, they were the coping mechanism that stepped in that saved our lives.
But it's that stuff in the corner now, though.
Right.
Yeah.
And what maybe worked for you when you were 6 and 10 and 12 and 21 or whatever doesn't work now.
Right.
And the reality is we all have a bitch, a lover, a mother,
darn, do we all have that?
Yes, we all do. And the idea is that we need all these parts at times.
Yes.
I mean, if you're building a house and you've got a group of contractors there that are giving you down the road, you need to bring that inner bitch out to get some things done, right? But it's, recognizing that I'm called an integrative coach. So that means that we find the parts of ourselves that are keeping us stuck or moving forward and work with them and integrate them into the true self and the true being. Because we need all our parts.
All our parts. That's exactly right. Well, tell me a little bit about why, if I were struggling with something, why would I think coach versus therapist?
That's a really good question. I think I think therapy is definitely for instance, my mother passed away when I was a child, and I actually found her. There were some deep, deep wounds. That's therapy work.
Right. Okay.
And I think therapy deals with things that we need to possibly revisit in the past in order to let go. And I think coaching is more about, okay, what is going on right here, right now that we can look at, that we can redefine or get a different perspective on and move forward.
Okay.
It's not so much looking back and dealing with, and you have to be careful about that.
Yeah, you do.
Because there is a fine line, and that's one of the reasons that I feel really good about my coaching program, because we were really trained to look at when we did an interview with a client or a potential client, if it was a true coaching client,
of course,
or if we need to refer them to a therapist.
Yeah, otherwise there can be harm.
Absolutely, because you're talking about people's mental health.
Yeah, you are. Of course you are.
And you also, and I'm appreciative now at my age for my life experience. I mean, it's kind of like what I've told you before.
Sure.
If you went to Africa and you wanted to take a trip in the brush, you would want someone who had done it before.
Yes, absolutely. I don't want to meet the lion by myself.
Yeah. I mean, I had a situation a few years ago where I was ready to do therapy again. And not that I had anything against anyone young, but, they were in their early, mid-20s maybe. And, I'm in my 60s.
Right.
And I needed someone with more life experience that I could really relate to.
Of course.
So that's another thing too, is really looking at who you're relatable to.
Right.
And what can they bring to the table,
Well, as a beautiful woman in her early 60s who has had a lot of life experience, what is it that you feel like you uniquely bring to the table? So you obviously bring a trained coach to the table with a lot of experience in coaching and a lot of training in coaching. But what do you bring to the table uniquely?
I think the biggest thing for me is compassion.
Okay.
Because my life started off, as many people, really in a very, very difficult situations. And throughout my life, what I've learned from great mentors is having compassion for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've
I think
also
all women could use that.
all women can use
Yeah.
that. And I think if we can't muster up compassion for ourselves, then find someone that can help
Yeah.
you at least
Mhm.
until you can get there. Because without compassion, we will stay stuck. We will beat ourselves up over and over and over. It's compassion this year that's helped me move through a heart attack. It's compassion this year that I'm able to come on the show every week, even though I'm going through a divorce. It's loving yourself no matter what.
I have a question there, a coaching question for you. So how is compassion connected to or married to forgiveness? I'm interested in that. So do we have to forgive ourselves before we can be compassionate? Or if we're compassionate, does it bring forgiveness? Does it allow us to forgive ourselves?
I think the compassion comes first.
The compassion comes 1st. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah. I really think it does. Because if you can be compassionate for yourself and understand that, God, I was doing the best I could.
Yeah, the best I could.
Then you can look at someone else and begin to see that as well.
Yeah.
We're all here just doing the best we can.
On a journey.
And, I saw something the other day, and confidence is wonderful. And confidence will get us way down the road. It'll get us all kinds of stuff. But without compassion, confidence runs out. It runs out of road.
Yeah, it does.
There are things that happen that can knock that confidence right out from under you. And we've had these conversations before.
Yes, we have many times.
But it's the compassion that will help you get up again.
So another coaching question then, just I think it'll help people understand how you coach as well. But when most women, I'm assuming you coach more women than men?
I have coached men. My love is empowering and supporting women, especially in transition.
Yeah, absolutely. That's our life from birth till death, I think, as women. But so when women come to you, are most of them coming in need of confidence or in need of compassion? Sometimes women are short on both. So do you see patterns where there's a little bit more of this or a little bit less of that?
I keep going back to that. I think it's the compassion. I think that's the base for us to be able to go into any area, whether it's a part of us that we just hate and we don't want to look at or deal with, but we need that part integrated to move forward, to have the confidence.
Of course.
So, yeah, I think even when I look back on my life, when people could hold a space of compassion for me when I couldn't do it.
Yes, it helps.
It's powerful. It's powerful.
It allows us to walk into it. Well, speaking of holding a space, you offer a complimentary consultation. I
do.
I think.
I do.
Okay.
Actually. And I like to do that. I like to offer a complimentary 20, 30-minute session. And that can be on the phone or Zoom or in person if they're here. I have lots of clients that are everywhere. But I like to do that because I have to make sure that not only, I'm a fit for them, but they're a fit for me.
Of course.
And that, I feel like I would never take anyone on that I didn't feel like I could help them reach their goals or what they were moving towards.
Of course not.
Yeah.
When you're on the phone with them for that first 30 minutes, how much of that is time spent with the other person being unsure of how do I go about this? So are there ways that you would say, if you're feeling this, or this, that's a good time to give me a call and let's talk about that? Or are there things that, it's probably not time for coaching yet, or it's time for therapy? Are there some identifiers where a woman could know what I'm feeling right now could really be helped by coaching? Are there some identifiers there?
I think most people that reach out already know that they want support.
Okay.
And then it ends up being if we connect.
Right.
I see that. Because if you connect with someone generally
right
in 30
away.
minutes.
Sure. Sure you do.
And then, and there's also can they feel safe?
Yes.
with me. Because
now, how do you go about providing a safe environment? So obviously when you're on the phone, it's voice and it's listening and it's asking good questions. But when you're sitting in their environment or they're sitting in yours, and you do go to their environment sometimes,
Yes.
do you not?
Yes.
Okay. So when you're sitting in their environment, how do you create a safe space? Just that space of compassion that you're talking about. How do you go about creating that?
Wow, that is a great question. I don't know if I've ever been asked that. Leave it to you, Joyce, to ask me that.
I'm so sorry.
No, but
you're a great coach. No, I love people to understand how that works.
It's really great.
Yeah.
I think that in a conversation, I think people just generally intuitively feel if they can go there with you. And obviously coaching is like anything else, or therapy or working out at the gym or anything else. I mean, you don't dive into the deep end of the pool. You know, there are steps of connecting and beginning to feel safe. And I generally always with every client assign some sort of, I don't like to say homework, I like to call it life work, to help them really think about what we've talked about and if that feels right. And it just continues to build that ground of being.
Okay. How often does someone who is kind of committed to healing or committed to finding the compassion for themselves that they need, how often are they typically visiting with you? Is it, I'm going to be twice a week sitting down with Deborah, or I'm, sitting once a month? What's a good typical time frame for working through?
True certified coaches, if it's someone brand new, I always recommend once a week and a commitment of 3 months. Okay. And the reason I say 3 months is like anything. I mean, I want my client to get the result.
Of course.
Just like if you went into someone's house, you knew you couldn't do it in an hour, right?
Right.
And some of the things we're talking about, it's yes, it's 1 hour of our time together, but then it's that week of them practicing and processing and implementing tools that I'm giving them. So we need an amount of time, just like when you go to the gym, you don't get muscles tomorrow.
Darn.
No, I know, don't we wish? It's a process, and I've found 3 months, depending on what they're wanting to work on, we're definitely going to see progress. And I mean, I've had clients that have worked with me 3 years.
Right.
So it might be, we get through this and then there's something else that comes up, or a big life happening, and we continue. Now, previous clients, can call me and we know each other well and we have history together, and it might be they just need a tune up.
Right. Of course.
So we might, talk a couple times and they're back on the road.
Okay.
And that's, my goal has always been to, from the very beginning, I mean, I prayed and I asked God, I was like, if I'm going to do this, I don't want people to have to sit on a therapist's couch for 8 years,
No. Oh my goodness.
I want people to find their light as quickly as possible and get back into their lives.
Well, I want to ask about this because I think this is also important for people who are considering coaching. So as women, a lot of times we recognize really clearly that there's something off skew, and maybe we reach out to a coach, but we never celebrate the fact that 3 months has come and gone and we've moved from here to here. How do you help women celebrate the processes and the forward momentum that they've made through the coaching process?
I always include celebrating wins.
Oh, I love that.
That's
I did not
probably
know
that probably is in week 3.
Oh, gosh, that's great.
Because I just had a client, literally, actually 2 clients just in the last month.
That's wonderful.
They were celebrating wins within 2 weeks.
That's great.
And I wouldn't let them just step over that and, okay, let's next.
Right.
I mean, I had a lot of our session be let's let that sink in. Let's
Yes.
squeeze the juice out of it.
And explore it.
Yeah, and the
Yes.
more our
that
bodies
makes me feel good just hearing that.
Yeah, and the more our bodies, recognize and see that we can do these things, or we
Yeah.
can feel
Yeah.
better.
Yeah.
That gives the brain a new neural pathway
Sure.
to say, "Oh, that's possible."
Yeah, that's exactly right.
It's possible.
Do you find that your job is primarily leading the way or helping women get out of their own way?
I would say I obviously don't do any of the work.
Right.
I feel like I'm a guide.
Okay.
I feel like I'm shining the light in maybe some dark places and giving them tools to get through.
And being there with them.
Yes, and being there with them.
Yeah.
Holding their hand, being that support. A lot of times, too, I'll encourage my clients, especially if we're working on something very specific, to email me during the week. That's fine. If something comes up in that red hot minute,
oh sure,
sometimes it's not as big a week later, right? So if any way possible, if they have something that comes up that I can help them, show them in that minute, excuse me, or as soon as I can get to them, and we can deal with a fresh wound or a fresh trauma or a fresh upset.
Sure.
Then that gives them the confidence to know, oh, yeah, I can do this.
I can do it.
I can do this.
I love the idea of shining light into those dark corners, because every woman, every person has them. There's just something in that corner, and we keep it dark over there because we really don't want to look at it because we know we can't handle it, which is so not true. So how do you help a woman gain her own truth, to know that intuition that she has and that corner is not so bad and the intuition will get her there? How do you guide? So you're making it sound like it's just a little flashlight, but you've had a lot of training there. Are there specific things that you use as tools to help turn that light on?
Well, like I said, there's certainly a lot of work that happens. We have an hour or an hour and a half or whatever together, but then there's certainly a lot of other things that they're going to process, that they're going to journal, or specific things I'm going to have them do to keep opening up that light. And a lot of times what I find is women are so afraid of that dark corner, they're almost afraid I think what I'd really do is begin to open Pandora's box and show them that they can feel. Because so many women feel like, well, if I let myself start feeling about that dark corner, it will never stop.
It will never stop.
And I will never be able to function again. So
I've met all of these women, including myself.
Yeah. So I think that's a huge piece, is beginning to show women how to feel,
and
how
allowing
to begin
it.
to open that box, and understanding that they can be safe with their feelings.
Yes. That's so important, Deborah. Oh my gosh.
Because once we're able to really feel, there's more room. You and I've talked about this. There's more space there for your own intuition and information and insights to come in.
I want to talk one day completely about emotions and feelings in general, because I think as women, we tend to think we shouldn't be feeling that or that just to start with. We shouldn't be feeling that, period. And then that's part of why it gets shoved in the corner, because we feel not good about having the feelings. So that's another conversation.
You're absolutely right. I mean, every feeling is appropriate.
It's okay.
Every feeling is whatever we feel. I mean, it's but you're right. Society or our parents whatever has told us, no, anger is wrong. Or jealousy is wrong. Or sadness or shame or I mean, we don't want anyone to know that we feel anything other than
perfect.
Bricky.
And interesting enough, women love to hide their accomplishments. I think they have been taught that the feelings of self-pride are not healthy others, which really makes it hard to get to those dark corners, doesn't it?
It does. I think it's hand in hand. I mean, when people when women can't celebrate their accomplishments, they're not really cementing it in, because even though it's a good thing, it's still over there in that dark corner too, right? So, and then learning, how to make sure that you're cultivating friendships where your friends are going to celebrate.
Oh, yes.
And
with really
you.
celebrate with you.
Yes.
Really celebrate.
And it's okay to tell your friends, I need for you to go to dinner with me and
live it up.
Let's toot our horns, and
even over the smallest of things and the smallest of accomplishments. That's important. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's like that old saying, the long journey begins with one little step.
Yeah, it does. So, it really does. You obviously coach one-on-one, but do you do girlfriends groups?
I do, and I actually love group coaching. I love group coaching because you may not go quite as deep in group coaching unless it's a group that knows each other very well. I mean, I have coached women who, they don't know each other.
Right,
so you may not go as deep. But the great thing about group coaching is if there's one person who has a question but is too embarrassed or whatever, or doesn't feel appropriate to ask it, somebody else will.
Yeah, of course.
Because somehow, you know how we all as women kind of sync up our cycles? Well, if we're in a circle, we're all kind of thinking the same
we're
thing.
We're syncing our brains.
Yes,
that's right.
We really are.
And we're compassionate for each other. We will ask the question that we know Sally wants to ask. Maybe not our own, but maybe Sally will ask ours.
And when you see someone else open up and maybe there's tears and the group is giving compassion, you can move fast way down the road.
Yes.
And that's another reason.
And all week long.
Group coaching is powerful.
Yeah, it is. Okay. How about presentations? So do you do presentations in the workplace? Like if the workplace would like you to come in and do some, they have wellness programs now on weight loss and this, that, and the other, but not too often on mental health. And mental health is a growing concern with all that's going on in our society and just society in general. But do you come in and speak to, hey, I'm working all day long, and when I go home, there are a lot of additional things that are on my plate that I just can't even look at right now? Or do you come in and speak on stress? Or have you had an opportunity to work in work environments?
I have, actually. I've done many, many roundtables.
Okay.
And it was interesting because when I was doing the roundtables, it was almost always men who showed up.
Oh, that's very interesting.
At 8 o'clock in the morning on a Monday morning.
Okay, I have to ask, was it to talk about their wives?
No. Actually, it was a business roundtable group, but I had the opportunity and luxury to talk about my work.
That's great.
Because a lot of these men were very aware and realized that, emotional stability is just as important as their intellectual.
Absolutely. Do you think, just as an interesting question, culture is changing and everything else, but do you think men as a whole are embracing emotion more than they might have in 1950?
I would say yes, because we've been screaming to the top of our lungs. I would say yes. So they're trying, I think they want to, and yes, I would say yes, it's changing some. But I also say that in my experience, and this is just my experience, at some point, you have to recognize men are still, in general, wired very differently than women.
Of course.
We are emotional beings, and we emote. They are logical, and they think. So, if I could talk to younger women now, I think what I would encourage them to think about is your guy don't have to be your girlfriend. Your best girlfriend, I mean,
yes, that's such a great point.
Yeah, I mean, if you're needing that, go get your girlfriend.
Yeah,
I mean, go have a glass of wine or a cup of coffee or lay in the grass in the park or something, because I do think sometimes we are wired differently. Yes, men can have emotional maturity, but in general,
Mhm.
our automatic, the way that we function is just different. And it's
Yes.
okay.
Of course, of course. I hope everybody can tell that this is a qualified, trained coach. Very, very good. What would be a wrap up for you in terms of someone just thinking about calling?
Mm-hmm.
They're a little bit scared. They've never had therapy, no less, coaching.
Right.
They don't know even where to start.
Mm-hmm.
What do they do when they
I
pick
would
up the
suggest,
phone?
just reaching out. You can always reach out to the podcast, which is Golden's Guide. You can reach me on there. You can also reach me at deborah@deborahhawkins.com. And I would love to just, have a conversation. My goal right now, my birthday is in a couple weeks and I'll be 64. And my goal at this point is really, and I think it always has been, if we don't share what we've learned, it's a little bit selfish,
Yeah.
And
it's such a loss on top of that. It's such a loss.
Yeah. So I would suggest please reach out if you just have questions about coaching. I know a lot of women who are looking at wanting to go into coaching, and I answer a lot of questions there too.
Okay.
Because we have a lot of women now that are so wanting to support other women.
Yes.
But it's as easy as a phone call or sending me an email and us connecting and seeing if it might be something that you're interested in or a way that I could support.
Yeah.
Or if you want to have a girlfriends group.
Yeah, I love that.
Coaching. Yeah.
I love that idea.
Mm-hmm.
Girlfriends groups all the way.
Well, I think we're at time. Thank you so much for interviewing me.
You did a great job.
You asked the best questions,
Oh gosh,
Joyce.
I love talking to you. And I love hearing about that because you're so passionate about
I
that.
am.
You are so passionate about that.
It's definitely part of what I'm here to do. Well, thanks everyone for joining us today. Don't forget, we're still here, so enjoy every minute, and we'll see you next time.